pulling that up, does anyone have any questions? And again, I wasn't necessarily reading the chat because I was in a hurry to accelerate my speed through all that, but feel welcome to ask if you have any questions now. I like the responses on possible threats. I'm reading all those answers now.
There we go. All right. Yeah, I really appreciated that too, and I loved the content you provided. There was so much there that we see people fall victim to on a daily basis. So it was really great to hear you talking about all of that and educating on those different elements, because it is vital that people understand what they're up against when it comes to cybercrime. So hopefully you guys can see the Blackpoint Cyber logo. Is that up?
We can see it.
Excellent. So I want to take a moment and thank Pegasus Technologies for having me on today. You guys are an excellent partner. You are really thoughtful in the security stack that you're offering to your clients, and you guys, everyone who's here has just a really great partner in Pegasus. So thank you for that. And then also thank you, each of you, for spending some of your time today to learn more about cybersecurity and to learn more about this managed detection and response business that we're going to dig into. What I plan on doing for you today is taking a little bit of time and going through who Blackpoint Cyber is and what we bring to the table and how it might benefit you. And in a nutshell, the best way to really kind of think about what Blackpoint Cyber is imagine, if you would, that you were our top cyber operator with over a decade of offensive experience, and you created a tool that would stop yourself from being able to break into a network. That is what Blackpoint Cyber is, and that is what we do. So the core group of people who founded Blackpoint Cyber came right out of the information security world, from the offensive side. And so when I say the word offensive, that is polite speak for hacker. Okay, so just keep that in mind as a little sub note. But John Murchison, our CEO and our founder, spent 12 years at the NSA conducting our country's top offensive cyber operations. Okay, John likes to describe the experience as being, the professional bad guys, but playing for the right team. And he left that experience. He left his time at the NSA and actually collaborated for a while with the CIA, and then left that. And he wanted to take that offensive mindset and the experience that his team had and to put those tools in the hands of the good guys. And really, to do that, what he wanted to do was use live asset visibility. So looking at the computers and the servers on the network in real time and paying attention to how they're communicating to each other, and to use that information to really detect and respond to threats at the earliest possible point in that hacker timeline that Eric already explained a little bit, and we'll get into more. So, first step was building a team, right? We have a very, very strong leadership team that we are very proud of. I won't read through the bios of each and every one of these guys. I'll hit the high notes. Chris Inglis and General Hayden, between them both, ran cybersecurity, offensive and defense, for the entire country across 2 administrations, both Bush and Obama. So they've got a little bit of experience in cybersecurity. Hamid and Dr. Raj are self-made billionaires that took their companies into global enterprises. And our newest person that joined our team is John Stewart, not the late night comedian guy, sorry, but the former VP of security and trust over at Cisco. So we're really excited to have him on the team. These guys don't do the everyday grunt work, but they steer the ship, right? They have invested their own time and money into Blackpoint. At the very least, I'm sure you'd expect that these folks aren't going to just throw their name up onto anybody's website, right? So at the end of the day, what Blackpoint Cyber is this term managed detection and response, and we call it MDR for short. Also, the tech world loves their little acronyms, right? So MDR, and what it means that we do is we are the last line of defense in the network. We were talking about dogs at the beginning of this conversation. If you come into my house, you're greeted by an exuberant, large, loud German Shepherd mix, or he's actually a Belgian Malinois if you're familiar with the breed. But he can jump 6 feet into the air and he will look a grown man straight in the eyes. Like, he's an intense dog. And what that does for me is it means that no one ever comes into my house that I'm not aware of. in some way. The truth is that most small to mid-sized businesses, despite practicing good network hygiene and having all of the protections in place, they don't have that guard dog inside the network responding 24/7 to alerts as they come in. And they don't have that because it used to be really, really expensive. But what Blackpoint Cyber has done and what Pegasus is offering to you guys through our partnership is being able to deliver this service to you, where our 24/7 SOC, our Security Operations Center in Baltimore, Maryland, staffed by top cyber operators, is able to monitor the activity on your network to see when communications start to get a little hinky and then respond to stop that activity immediately. Just like a fire in your house, if you respond when there's just a little bit of smoke, it is a lot better than waiting until those flames have spread, okay? So that is what we do for you. And it all comes down to this hacker timeline. So same information as just laid out a little different than the other slide that Eric shared. But basically, this is the process that a hacker goes through in order to breach your network. And I have 90 days. The Verizon study and stuff had 200 days. We found with small to mid-sized companies sometimes it's a little bit shorter, but really what we're looking at is the dwell time that a hacker is in an environment before they push the go button. And what everyone needs to understand is this is not an instantaneous event. This isn't just, oh, I clicked a link and now my entire network's encrypted. It's actually a process. If I'm a hacker, the first thing I do is I pick my target. I have to figure out who I'm going to break into. I have to do my research about them to find out how I'm going to break in. And then I go ahead and I pull the trigger and I execute my intrusion. And there are hundreds of different ways to do this. They are constantly changing. And it is really, really hard for any company with any amount of resources to stop every single way that a hacker can break into the network. Once I'm inside the network as a hacker, I first need to go through this process called enumeration. And enumeration is a critical point in the hacker timeline because at this point, all of the other methods have failed, right? Everything that we use to keep the bad guys out, they're already breached. So at this point, a hacker does what's called, it utilizes live off the land technologies. And if you've ever gone hiking or been interested in homesteading, right, you know that living off the land means using what's already there. So when hackers live off the land, they're using basic Windows systems to scan the network, figure out what they have access to, look around on the environment. And what they do with this information is they figure out where they've landed in the network. And more importantly, where they want to go and who they need to impersonate and become in order to spread as much as possible and get the data that they want. So the next stage they move into is this lateral spread phase. And in this phase, what they're doing is they're really starting to lean heavily on their tradecraft. They're using their keyloggers, they're setting up their tool sets, they are beginning to gather up the data that they're going to steal. They might also be turning off antivirus. They might be disabling backups. They're really in control of what's going on in the environment, and this is really bad phase to have them be in. And then finally, when everything's set up and they're sure of success, then they push the go button, okay? And so what you need to remember about Snap Defense, the product that Blackpoint Cyber brings to the table, is that we were built by former nation state level attackers that are experts in this tradecraft. And what they've done is they've built a tool that is going to recognize that behavior and stop it before it gets to that point where they're completing their objective, okay? So the platform itself is a security operation and incident response platform. It's a lightweight endpoint agent that goes onto the computers and servers. And then the information is sent to our cloud platform where the 24/7 team is reviewing the alerts as they come in. The whole purpose of this process is for rapid detection and response. We're malware agnostic. We don't care what kind of program is running. We don't care how the breach happened. We're breach agnostic. It doesn't matter how the bad guys got in. It's our job to spot their behavior and to shut them down. So you guys already talked a little bit in this presentation about some of the big names in breaches, but what I want to say is that even though we've got these big names thrown up on the slide, here's the secret. The behavior that is used to breach Target, the tradecraft that is used to breach Home Depot, it's the same exact tradecraft that's used to, breach the sports barn down the down the block from you. It's the doctor's office or the dentist office. It might take them longer to break into an enterprise corporation. They might have to work a little harder for it. But at the end of the day, the behavior, the lateral spread, the remote access, the reconnaissance and enumeration process, and the compromised accounts, all identical, okay? And what you need to know is that, yes, you can put every tool in place, and these companies do. You better believe they're using the top grade antivirus and endpoint detection and response tools. They're using the SIM technology. But at the end of the day, they still got popped. And the question is why? And it's because the tools that they are provided are just tools. You need people inside looking at the actual human behavior to catch humans in action, okay? And that is the exact tool that we bring to the table. When we take a closer look at those breaches and we make sure that we can spot those things that are the same in all of them, then we can do real-time threat hunting and we can stop the bad guys. So in kind of summary to wrap things up, really what I want to focus on is that the team has the expert knowledge that we need in order to keep you guys safe. It is a world-class, nation-state grade cybersecurity platform, and it is made specifically for small to mid-sized businesses, which makes us the only company that can compete with the CrowdStrikes and the FireEyes in the world and still deliver it for small to mid-sized organizations to keep you safe. And it's 100% made and ran in the USA. So that's definitely an important thing when you're talking about security and compliance, right? So we do have some new contextual awareness built into our platform, and all that matters is we're able to detect more things, we're doing it faster, and we're grouping the important alerts together to make our team more effective. We are also, again, using live network mapping. So what this means to you, it can get really technical, right? The things that we're looking at. But at the end of the day, what we need to know is if this, computer, maybe it happens to belong to someone in sales, and that person works pretty strictly 8 to 5 or even 8 to 8, if this computer turns on at 2 a.m. and starts running SSH protocol against the CEO in the middle of the night, dude, that is out of context. That is tricky behavior, and you want that to not happen in your environment, right? So whether that is a malicious code that's running, whether that is maybe that person is maybe a little disgruntled and is just poking around the network themselves, it doesn't matter really. As long as that computer is acting in a bad behavior or a bad way, we're going to spot it and stop it for you. And again, it's not just about alerts, and this is where I think a lot of the different technologies diverge from what we do. We're not just a computer program that's going to flag the malicious stuff and send you an alert and walk away. We're actually going to take it in action for you. Our product and our people are designed, what we do is we're going to actually stop malicious tasks. So if we see something that's running on the machine, we can control, alt, delete, and kill it right through our tool. So we're able to end a malicious process. We're also able to detain or cut the network access to a compromised machine. And that allows us really to keep you guys safe. So you go from what could be an event that affects an entire organization to, one user has to have their computer reimaged. It's a much better experience for everybody involved, right? And it keeps you out of the news. So at this point, we can pause. The one thing I actually do want to talk about is just an example of what this looks like. I have a client that is a city, not a big city, but when we got deployed into that environment, they were already owned. There was a ransomware group called Dridex. They're out of Russia, and they were positioned in a way where they were just probably a day or two shy of actually launching their ransomware. and we were able to actually stop it. They came back several times because the city had some work to do to get their systems up to date and to really shore up their defenses to keep them out. But over time, we were able to continually detect and respond and to keep them out of the news. And that city would have been the next, Baltimore, or, all of the big ones that have been hit. So it's one of those things where having the right tools, people, processes in place, and having them all work together to keep you secure is vital. And that's one of the reasons why we truly love working with Pegasus, because they're bringing all the right tools to the table. So. Eric, what we could do question and answer. I can show a quick hack. How do you want to go next? You're muted.
Thank you. You think I know that by now, right? No, thank you very much, Jamie. That was helpful. And to be clear, we felt like we needed to bring in a company like Blackpoint because these hackers have grown so sophisticated. It does require 24/7 real-time human response, and for us to do it in-house, that piece of it just would not be cost effective for our clients. And you have the expertise and the labor, and this is your focus on what you do. So it made perfect sense. So that's everybody. If you wouldn't mind, think about, if you have any questions for Jamie or for me, and then Jamie, while everyone's thinking about it, if you want to do a little bit of a live demo to sort of see this in action, I think that would be very, very helpful.
Excellent. So let me pull the environment over, and this is actually just a end user computer. Let's make sure it loaded. Yep, it did. Okay. And so basically the platform here is, oops, go over to the network map. Right now, there's a couple of remote admin alerts, but nothing, nothing major. I will quiet those all down. But this is basically a network map. We have maybe 30 devices on this environment. There is nothing really complicated about it. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to break into one of those 30 computers. And we do this to really indicate how a hacker can very quickly access a device. So this is Average Joe Tech 4. So this is a computer. Average Joe is actually, his name is Felix Miller. That's our fictitious character, but he has received this email from his buddy, Peter Gibbons. And one thing that you guys need to know, you already talked about this, LinkedIn is just an awesome source for hackers. They know they can go onto Felix's LinkedIn profile, they can find people who have talked with him, who have given him recognitions, and they can send an email that's really designed to trigger a response from Peter. So it has an urgent tagline. They're hoping they don't recognize, in this case, that the email is not actually Peter Gibbons, it's this G. Harmon. But they can also, if they take a couple of minutes, they can hide that too. But they send this spreadsheet. And so what we're going to do in this is we're going to do what everyone is told not to, and you should 100% not do this. We're actually going to enable content. And it actually pops up a cred harvesting window. This window can pop up right away, or what's more likely to happen is it's going to look, nowadays it'll look like Office 365 and it'll pop like 3 hours later. So you aren't going to mentally connect it with that weird spreadsheet you got that you close really quick to hope that nothing bad happened, right? And so we're going to fall for the cred harvesting attack. And all right, so I'm gonna hit OK here. And what that did, that one bad decision actually allowed the hacker to create a scheduled task in the background, and also allowed the hacker to do a reconnaissance on the network. So if we go over to the hacker box, we can actually see what information that we just gathered from that one event. So I'm gonna scroll into this because the resolution is really far out, and I doubt you guys have your magnifying glasses on, right? So what you can see is that one bad decision gave the hacker the username and the password. It confirmed for the hacker that they actually have admin access to this device because they were able to successfully mount hidden share. It's just hacker tradecraft. They were able to run an ARP list, which just means they were able to find out all of the devices that this particular computer has access to. They are also able to see that RDP is open. So you mentioned, not leaving standard ports open. And then they're also able to see that this person is in the domain admins group. And so the interesting thing to point out here is that this computer is 100% running an antivirus program on it, but the antivirus can't fire it because nothing malicious is actually run on the machine. These are just basic Windows tools doing this information gathering portion. And what we see over on the Snap network is that our network map just lit up, right? So we can see the domain controllers involved. There's this unknown attack source hitting the network, and we can see Tech4 is involved. And what that tells us is it gives us the opportunity to respond and shut down access to this device so that nothing more bad can happen. And then also it provides us the whole story of what went wrong so we can go back and educate the user after the fact. So we can actually see the creative processes around that time. And I won't go too far into this part of the detail. This is more very techy. But what this tells us is basically all of the processes that were triggered by this one event and everything that the hacker did. So we've got a kind of way to go back after the fact and see what happened and make sure that we can prevent it from happening in the future. And then we can also confirm that this is indeed malicious activity and not just Eric doing some kind of remote access and taking care of the computer. Again, having that contextual awareness, being able to look at not only what's happening, but who's doing it and how and why. Gosh, I mean, that really makes a huge difference. So what kind of questions do you guys have?
And Jamie, let me interrupt there for a moment if I could. We're a little bit at time. We're at 1:48 right now. Yep. So what I want to do is, just to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to do the Amazon gift card drawing now. And then that's kind of the fun part. And then if anyone wants to stick around for some questions and answers, or just listening to other people's questions and answers, which I find a lot of value in that personally, you're more than welcome to do that. And we're happy to stick around for it. But I don't want to keep everybody waiting if they're waiting for the good part here of the Amazon gift card. But hopefully there's some good other parts too. So with that, I'm going to use a random number generator for our attendees. And I see that the winner of the gift card is, come on. All right. It is Maria Elena Solis. So yay. Congratulations to her. Yeah. And we'll get you that information. So hooray for that. Now, questions and answers. I didn't mean to step on you there too much, Jamie, but wanted to move it along.
I 100% appreciate that because people are all very, very busy. So yeah, does anyone have any questions, or does that process make sense, or the reason for it make sense?
This is Kelly Tomlin. I have a quick question. Can you talk about in terms of cyber insurance and how this might help you in that arena?
100%. So one of the requirements for insurance companies when they are getting ready to issue their policies is to understand the exposure, the threat exposure for the customer that they're considering writing the policy on. And so what we do by providing this detection and response service is we're actually able to lower that risk. So they'll have their questionnaire and they'll say, are you actively looking for threats in your environment, and do you have a resolution plan, like a response plan when they happen? And being able to check yes to those questions are going to increase your ability to get qualified for a cybersecurity solution, and then also it's going to decrease the cost of that solution.